Welcome back to the channel Black is One, where the agenda is to unify and edify the black race so that we can build and prosper. So I'm continuing with my series doing profiles on some of the teams that are in the World Cup, doing a kind of audit of their account to see if they have any back bill, any bad debt with black people. You know, I'm trying to determine whether or to what extent we as black people support these teams, given our history with these countries, and not just history but current relationships. So today I'll be doing an audit. I'll be checking the bill of Portugal. Portugal is under the microscope in this video. Now, Portugal, Mr. Portugal. For some reason, when it comes to the transatlantic slave trade and colonization and the enslavement of African people, Portugal seems very inconspicuous. Not many people know about Portugal. It's as if they weren't even there. We know about England and we know about France and Spain and the United States and so on. They can't hide. But Portugal hardly comes to mind when we think about these things. The depopulation of Africa, mass migration, forced migration of Africans to the so-called New World. But can I tell you that when it comes to that mass migration, as they like to call it, forced migration, the transatlantic slave trade, which is the greatest human tragedy in history, the worst crime against humanity in history. We're talking about 36,000 voyages with black people being shipped off their continent for the purpose of working to death so that they can enrich Europe. Can I tell you that all this was started by Portugal? Portugal is the founding father. They started what would become the transatlantic slave trade in the 15th century, at about 1448 thereabout, under the authority and instruction of the Catholic Church. When we read the history books, they like to tell us that it was the Africans that sold each other into slavery. That the Europeans just went down and bought Africans that were on sale. If that is even the case for the France and the England and Spain, that's not the case for Portugal. Portugal, as the real OG in African enslavement among the Europeans, they actually hunted down Africans themselves with their rifles and bayonets and handcuffs, and capture Africans and put them on ships and ship them off to the quote-unquote New World. The first European-run slave market where black people were on sale was operated by Portugal. In those days, the Portuguese flag was a symbol of terror to the African people. It's like Judgment Day, nightmare. Some Africans would rather jump off a cliff when they see this flag than to meet with the Portuguese. It was like the swastika to the Jewish people. I understand that it is football. I understand that it is sport. But like I said, it is never just sports. It is never just football. It is politics. It's about power. It's about money. It's about spreading a certain ideology. Given what the Portuguese flag represented to the African people, if our ancestors were to come back to life? How would we explain why we fly that flag? Why that flag is on our cars, on our house? Why do we wear a jersey designed out of the Portuguese flag? Many people think that the biggest slave establishment was the biggest slave plantation was in the US or somewhere in the Caribbean. The largest slave plantation was in Brazil. The most Africans that ended up in one place ended up in Brazil. Brazil slave establishment was run by the Portuguese. Brazilians speak Portuguese. The Portuguese never had any slave colonies in the Caribbean, as far as I know. I read something where they said that about 4 million slaves were transported by the Portuguese to Latin America. And out of that 4 million, 3.5 million were taken to Brazil. The Portuguese were involved in colonization, in the capture of black people's continent, the capture and plunder of the continent. They had Angola and Guinea-Bissau and Mozambique, Cape Verde and Santo Principe. And like the story always is when it comes to colonization, is that they use African forced labor to extract the resources to make Europe rich. Portugal has their museums filled with stolen African arts and artifacts. I mean, I don't want to come off too crass to the black people who support the Portuguese team, the Portugal team. I understand it. Not everybody is open to this information that I'm giving. Not everybody know what I know. And not everybody see things the way that I do. But every time I see the supporters of these teams and the way they are jubilant about their team and the way they are defensive, the passion, the love they have for these teams, it makes me wonder. It makes me search for an explanation. What could cause that? How could someone pick a criminal as their favorite anything? Do Portuguese people support black teams or black anything? Why? Is it because on some of these teams you have 1 or 2 black person? Is that enough to forget 500 years of terror? And I need to make the point that these things are not in the past. Even those black players, not just on Portugal's team, but all these teams in Europe, have to face racism. The white crowds make it abundantly clear how they feel about us, and we haven't done them anything. We have given them everything, or they have taken everything from us. All that they have, they got from us. Why don't we give that same support to say Ghana or Senegal? Why don't we cheer for black to win, for black to carry home the trophy? Why don't we fly the red, green and gold and black African colors? Why don't we cheer for Cameroon? Why do we cheer for a country that started the transatlantic slave trade, that is responsible for the genesis of the destruction of Africa, the depopulation of the continent. As I said, I don't mean to upset the supporters of the Portuguese. I might come across that way, but that's not my intention. I'm just searching for answers, for understanding. And I hope you don't just click next on this video, but actually make a comment, say something. Anything can start a conversation. I'm not going to pretend like my opinion is final. I'm just saying, Portugal is weighed in the balance and found wanted. Portugal's account is in the red with black people. Portugal is in arrears with black people. Portugal is running on a deficit with black people. Portugal's account is bankrupt with black people. And until these accounts are settled, until they come to us at the table, there can be no celebration, there can be no support. That's my opinion, and that's all I'm saying. So leave your comment in the comment section. Like and share the video if you appreciate the content. The name of the channel is Black is One. Live the revolution.